saw this. I have not watched it yet, but I do genuinely appreciate Laura Fryer and her videos and her takes. This one stuck out to me just because it was focusing on a topic that was particularly interesting to me. Expedition 33 was the thumbnail and talking about the quote unquote danger of success. And this video came out 14 hours ago and it has about 20,000 views, 2,600 likes to 12 dislikes. So let's give it a watch and see what she has to say here.
After the infamous launch of the Xbox One, Team Xbox has been trying to rebuild their culture and their brand. They've spent billions of dollars acquiring beloved gaming franchises with some of the most talented developers in the world.
Which, by the way, I've brought this up before, just real quick before we even get further. I have a massive issue with one company buying every single smaller game company out there, putting them all under one roof, because if things start going south, then those companies start going under, people start getting laid off, where the company would have been perfectly fine on their own if they didn't sell off to a mega corporation before. There are massive issues I have with this whole situation, but
they have the money, the talent, and all of the game franchises they could possibly want. So why are they laying off thousands of people? Why aren't they shipping one game hit after another? They should be printing money at this point.
Power to increase the price to $20 a month.
As I've said before, making a great game or awesome hardware is very difficult, even in the best of circumstances. But the problems with Xbox are more than that. And today we'll talk about the pattern I've seen in many companies, not just Microsoft, and how difficult it is to avoid and fix entrenched cultural problems. When Xbox started, it was exciting. Everyone wanted to be a part of it, which was great.
Xbox started and it was exciting because it was different and it was for gamers and it was getting back at the core of what gaming was all about. And after, it was like a Trojan horse for gaming. After they got everyone to be like, okay, I'll buy into this. These are cool games. Halo's incredible. This is surreal. This is an actual competitor to Nintendo and Sony and Sega back in the day. Yeah, I'm on board with it. And then they just waited, got woke, and completely ruined how many companies and how many games that came out since then.
It was easy to recruit.
It went well. We showed nothing, technically, but it started to build the excitement.
But it's not only talented people that show up. It's everybody. It's the talented people that you want. It's the incompetent people that you don't. And you have a few corrupt people thrown in the middle. And telling them apart, figuring out who to hire is hard. And here's the thing. Even when you know it's a problem and you need to be very careful in your hiring, even the best people can make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And if a new hire is in a high leverage position, one that can severely impact the business, things can start to go poorly. And to be clear, high leverage positions are not just the executives. High leverage also means the people in what I call the interface positions, mm-hmm. people that interact with large parts of the team or with the publisher or with the community. Think producers, art leads, programming leads, and community managers.
I was going to say community managers. I was waiting for that. If she didn't say it, I was going to say it. True North says, you need to sign up to Twitch and I can be your mod who gives hundreds just for you to return those bits. Just as long as Pirate Software doesn't get sued. I do have a Twitch account. I just don't utilize it, True North. But something to consider. I appreciate you, bro.
People often overlook community management, but it is a very influential position on a game team. It's important because sometimes the community manager is the only person the gamer will ever interact with at the game studio. Mm-hmm. And a lot of feedback that a game developer hears about their game is filtered through high leverage positions, those interfaces. And if the data is changed or excluded by the person on the interface, the game developer doesn't get good feedback. And
well, the problem with the community managers is it's not about the feedback with many of them anymore. It's about woke policies and politics that they push agendas. It has very little of anything to do with the game at all with community managers.
You're not getting good feedback. It's very difficult to make good decisions. And this is a pattern I've seen in many companies, not just Microsoft. where success happens and suddenly you have all of this money, power, and fame. And people show up and they try to wrestle over it. They want to control it and the culture changes. In my view, this is what happened in Xbox. The culture went from being renegades that were mostly an engineering and production meritocracy to being a patronage culture filled with business people. And by patronage, I mean people who are hired for reasons other than being good at their job.
Ooh.
And once it gets started, the culture sustains because every incompetent person that gets hired hires more incompetent people. And sometimes it's because they're trying to protect their position, so they don't want someone who's better than them working for them. But other times it's because they can't recognize competence even in themselves. You may have heard of the Dunning.
I think part of the problem with the game industry, and it always has been, it wasn't noticed as much back in the day because smaller teams were able to create the maximum effort games back then. But because technology's progressed so much, teams have expanded so much. Developers are the ones that make the game. They are the beginning and the end of the quality of awesomeness with the game. Sure, everyone else has a hand in it, QA, marketing, CEOs, COOs, all the other people at the company. Great. Yeah. But without the developers, you don't have a game. Back in the day, the developers would make the game and most of them would do the marketing, talk about it, push it out there, would get out there all with that same team. Now it's expanded so much that they don't even know who to hire. They don't understand interpersonal skills, communication skills. These people live in front of a computer. They don't talk to people on a daily basis. They code day in and day out all day. So the idea of having a conversation with another human being is quite foreign to a lot of these people. So they will hire people that they think understand how to communicate with people, and they can basically be catfished by someone who is pulling the wool over their head to bring in more woke people. That's why the game industry has fallen. It's really that simple.
Kruger effect. It essentially says that if you don't know something, then you can't recognize if someone else does either. So imagine you're an artist you've never programmed in your life, and you're being asked to interview someone and figure out if they're a good programmer.
Yep.
This is a very difficult problem. And on top of that,
if a developer or an artist is in charge of hiring a community manager, there's going to be problems potentially.
It's very difficult to separate competence from confidence. In an article for Pacific Standard, David Dunning said the following: in many cases, incompetence does not leave people disoriented, perplexed, or cautious. Instead, the incompetent are often blessed with an inappropriate confidence, buoyed by something that feels to them like knowledge. This is one of the reasons you see these confident executives in the games industry who think they know more than the gamers themselves, who they're supposed to be serving. And they're rolling out products that don't appeal to them.
This kind of reminds me of the whole, you guys have phones, right? Where you're so out of touch with your consumer, the Diablo Immortal situation, that you think you're just cocky. You're just like, you got a phone, you can play this game, right, bro? It's like, how out of touch with the customer are you, where you think that people are going to be okay with that? You idiot.
Gamers were baffled when the Xbox team charged an extra $100 for the Xbox One because they wanted to include the Kinect.
Which, by the way, I got the Xbox One with the Kinect, I believe day one. And I remember thinking at the time it was okay. It wasn't like the worst thing ever, whatever. And after playing with it for like a couple of months, doing the Kinect adventures and stuff, I realized there was a noticeable lag between when you did something and when it showed up on it. And I'm like, this is actually not good at all. In fact, it's terrible. The only reason I thought it was decent at first is because it was new and different. But then when I got more time with it, after, like I said, like a couple of months, I'm like, no, this sucks. I never went back to it after that. It was terrible. I don't know what the hell Microsoft was thinking when they tried to package that with every single Xbox. It has to be one of the biggest boneheaded decisions in the history of not just gaming, but just business in general. Talk about not understanding your audience or the product that you're selling yourself.
I think the Xbox leaders hoped that by forcing Kinect into the hardware, game developers would have to support it and gamers would too. They didn't ask the game developers, they didn't ask the gamers. Heck, they didn't even ask the publishers. I was working at Warner Brothers at the time, and I can tell you that we saw the numbers. Gamers were not that interested in
Right.
Kinect. It was
No, they weren't. No one cared about it. They were like, this is stupid. I just want to play video games. I don't want a fucking camera and have to jump around. Just let me play a game.
pretty small part of the market. And they certainly did not want to spend an extra $100 for it.
Right.
But still, they pushed it top down because they believed they were right. And this
Think about how much money Microsoft spent on promoting this $100 forced add-on.
is what you see when a patronage culture takes over a company. They aren't customer focused, they're delusional, and they'll waste endless resources pushing their ideas. They move from a bottom-up culture where engineers and designers, the people doing the work, have
None of these people dancing right now cared or ever played Connect. Think about that. They got paid to go dance for it. None of them played games.
a seat at the table to one where it's top down and the company is only as smart as the CEO.
And really, that's the thing that kills me about gaming and the gaming industry. It's really not that hard. It's what's the YouTube appropriate way to say this? Sometimes you just need to get the job done. You just get the job done. You don't need all these extra bells and whistles to be crazy. You don't need things hanging from the ceiling to strap in or anything like that. You can just get the job done. You get the job done, you're good. When it comes to gaming, that's the way I feel about it. I don't need this crazy, like, oh my God, these additional add-ons and everything. Just let me play a game. I like playing a game. Let me play the game. I don't understand the additional things that keep getting pushed into this realm when it always goes back to you holding a controller, looking at a TV screen. And really, that's all people ever wanted. Just make a great experience with that. Just exactly. Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Well, I don't care how smart the CEO is.
I hate to bring it back to sex, but I'm just saying, like, keep it simple, stupid. Have fun. Get the job done and move on. We don't need these extra peripherals with everything to make it more interesting or fun. Or it's like, no, just get the job done.
I would bet.
I wonder if that has something to do with a lot of the quirkiness of people working in the game industry and what they do go home when they close the bedroom door. If they do need all these extra bells and whistles, if they're like, I need to bring this into my video game.
Team over an
Exactly.
individual any
How,
day.
how is that PSVR 2 selling, right? When was the last PSVR 2 game that came out, by the way?
And these delusions aren't just at Xbox. Take a moment and watch the pivoting of Silicon Valley. In 2021, everyone's building a metaverse. Facebook even changed their name to Meta. And then a short time later, it's all about AI. Facebook is so worried about missing the next big thing that they stopped leading.
That, by the way, when Facebook changed its name to Meta, it was the dumbest rebranding in history. Well, no, that honor goes to HBO Max, changing it to Max. But Facebook to Meta is a close second.
Just start chasing whatever the latest trend is. And it's understandable because they almost missed the cell phone completely. They were so far behind in 2012 that Zuckerberg had to pivot the entire company to focus on mobile just to catch up. And he never forgot that mistake. But we as customers, we sit here thinking, will these things ultimately work out, or are they just another fad? More delusions being pushed by executives out of touch with real people. When it doesn't work out, there's often no accountability because the people who are making the poor decisions, well, remember, they're not there for meritocracy reasons. In fact, oftentimes, the more failures, the more promotions they get. I remember being asked to lead a game that was
AKA failing upwards, which, for those of you who've been watching me for a while, covering people in the game industry, you realize this happens far more often than not with people that should be completely embarrassed, unemployed, and out of this industry on the whole are instead championed, brought into new companies, and into a higher position. Oh my God, what are we doing?
It's considered a disaster because it had already lost something like $30 million for the company. And the team was going around joking that I was in the big leagues now, that I was finally losing enough money that I was going to be promoted in no time. And that's when I started to notice that pattern. Of course, sometimes it's deliberate. Some people are getting promoted because they won't threaten the position of other executives. Think about it for a minute. Satya, the CEO of Microsoft, made around $80 million in total compensation in 2024.
He is, by all accounts, I'll be honest here, maybe the worst CEO in the world. And the irony of this guy running the most valuable company in the world, well, it might be NVIDIA, it goes back and forth these days, Microsoft, explains why he still has his job. Because Microsoft keeps making money. But I could easily argue that you could put me in the position of CEO of Microsoft and it would be making more money. And I have not worked as a CEO of a company, but I feel like I understand the consumer. I understand the customer, the people that purchase your product. This guy, he pushes wokeness and weird stuff that has nothing to do at all with what people are buying and promotes people that have nothing to do with what they're selling and has people working at the company that don't even have a job. What the hell is happening at Microsoft?
That's a lot of money. I think it's hard for most people to even comprehend how much money that is.
Well, Phobos says Satya has destroyed Microsoft. He pushes DEI and India first. Some could argue that's exactly what Bill Gates has asked for. Think about that for a second, too. Because Bill Gates isn't at Microsoft anymore, that's what he wants the legacy to be there. Bill Gates, I look at as a very old geriatric cuck, like a hardcore cuck, like one of the white guys for Kamala cuck kind of people. So of course he's going to be the wokest of the woketards. And with all that money, holy shit. We're talking about a computer geek that lived at his computer day and night, built literally an operating system that runs the world. This guy doesn't understand communication with interpersonal skills. He understands computers. And that's literally it. And because he made money from that, people think he's smart with reality. It's like, no, he's smart with computers.
Yes. And then you think about it, Satya's the leader, the CEO of one of the most powerful companies in the world. He's got money, fame, and power. What would you do to keep that? Would you want to bring in an aggressive new employee who's going to challenge your position? Or would you want to play it safe?
Mm-hmm.
Think about all the times you've seen people do crazy things for money. A lot less money than what we're talking about here.
Good point.
Tell me something you sell today if you offered $1 million for it.
Well, I wouldn't do it, but some people may sell their soul for $1 million.
This kind of mind-boggling money and
Surprised Soul wasn't an answer. And oh, by the way, good point. Smash, he didn't build Windows. He stole it from Apple. Good point. Touche.
power changes people. I've seen it many times. It changes people, even the ones who are trying to do their best.
George, I'll start you out at $20,000 a year.
And here's what I've observed. You don't know. You don't know how you're going to react to that much money or that much power and fame until you're tested.
Yep.
Okay, George. Okay, Mr. Potter.
No, wait a minute here. Wait a minute. I don't need 24 hours. I don't have to talk to anybody. I know right now. And the answer is no. Doggone
Money warps things, and it's a dangerous time when you're a successful studio. I worry about Sandfall. They've had incredible success, and they're likely going to encounter some corrupt people.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope Sandfall will be able to sort out their good offers from the bad.
I think that's the biggest concern with any game studio. But Sandfall is the crown jewel of the game industry right now. And to be honest, I'm actually a little bit shocked that they haven't been purchased by Microsoft. like I am really shocked because this is a studio that after Expedition 33 proved to the world that they have what it takes to make some of the greatest games of all time. You would think with one game under the belt that Microsoft would be the first one knocking at their door trying to buy them with a offer they couldn't turn down.
So even good people doing their best can falter in these circumstances. Even worse, though, is that some of the people are just plain unethical.
No, I'm not giving them ideas, Janarthis. I'm saying we don't know what happens behind closed doors. I would be willing to bet a disgusting amount of money that Sandfall Studios has been approached by Microsoft and they turned it down. I would be shocked if that didn't happen.
People that are using the company and the team to increase their own value and not that of the people they're supposed to be serving.
For all we know, by the way, it might actually be in the works right now. We don't know what Sandfall's next game is. We don't know what they're working on right now, what they're doing, what business ventures are happening. But if you're purchasing a studio, that doesn't just happen overnight. It takes months and months and months to get through all the paperwork and understanding and agreeing on things. So for all we know, it is in process right now. That's the other thing.
This is why I describe the culture of original Xbox as being mostly meritocracy, because some of the people who came over from Microsoft, they were empire builders, and all they wanted to do was take all of that power and fame and enrich themselves. They're not interested in making Xbox successful as much as they're interested in keeping their position. They care about things like media coverage. They want to be seen as a visionary more than they want to build something useful.
What I am shocked at is San Diego Comic-Con is going on right now. And maybe Xbox has a booth. Let me actually check because hold on. Xbox SDCC 2025. There is nothing at all. Microsoft. Not like zero. At the biggest convention on planet Earth, Microsoft is not there. That's weird. Because I've gone to San Diego Comic-Con for the past almost 20 years now. I think 19 years in a row I've gone to San Diego Comic-Con. And every year Microsoft has had a massive, well, since Xbox in the past, we'll say the past 8 years or so, a massive presence with the Xbox Game Lounge. That's pretty weak. I find it shocking that there's nothing Microsoft or Xbox at San Diego Comic-Con 2025. That's shocking. Very strange. No Xbox Gaming Lounge or anything. Very strange. Very strange. Almost like they know the Xbox gaming brand is dead and they're not trying to push it anymore. Is that too much of a leap to say that?
And in the case of these internal Microsoft people, it wasn't about the money. It was about the fame. They wanted that media coverage and they fought over it like dogs fight over a bone. I remember being in a green room for the Xbox right before one of our E3 media briefings. A green room is where people that are about to go on stage gather ahead of time to get ready. So being in the room is pretty cool. It's full of all the Xbox presenters, all the game developers that are going on stage. And if there's someone famous, like an actor or actress, you get to meet those people.
It's true. I've been in the green room at many conventions I've been to. The one that stands out to me is Game On Expo. And I was in the green room with all the Baldur's Gate 3 voice actors. I didn't know who any of them were because that's not like a big thing to me. But the Baldur's Gate 3 panel was the biggest thing at Game On Expo. Like hundreds and hundreds of people. The room was packed all the way back. It was a massive room all the way back. And I was in a green room just hanging out, eating food at a table right next to all of them right before they went out there. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I don't really know them.
So I was pretty excited to be in the green room, even though I wasn't going to be going on stage. So I'm there, and one of the executives is complaining to a PR person about his interviews that week. He was upset because two of the publications that he really wanted to do interviews for had requested other executives. They explained this to him, but he didn't care. He was still mad because he wanted those interviews. It was about him, not what was best for Xbox. Fast forward several years later, and I saw it again. I saw it when I was asked to lead the augmented reality.
Good point, by the way. The best leaders are the ones that put the product forward, not themselves forward.
Product team at Oculus. We had interviewed several
Like
people.
when you think about like Steve Jobs, people like that, Shigeru Miyamoto, people like that, where it's like what they create is what they push forward. And because of that is why they're famous. Not because they show up on stage and they're like, hey, I'm Steve Jobs. Hey, I'm Shigeru Miyamoto. It's like, no, it's here's what I have for you. That's why people love those people.
Had failed to hire. So I was asked to do the job and to talk to the team about it. So I'm talking to one of the researchers, and he has only one concern, and that is what will happen if we successfully launch the product. He wants to know whether or not I will be the one on stage taking credit for it instead of letting him do that. I laughed and said he didn't need to worry about that because there was zero chance that would happen. If we succeeded, Mark Zuckerberg would be the guy presenting. Mark would never miss being the face of the product he's spending billions of dollars on.
Who's going to wear
even
those
in the
glasses,
early days of
by the way?
Xbox, we had people joining the team that weren't great hires. And gradually, the builders, the people that knew how to make things, weren't part of the decisions. As an example, look at what happened with Bungie when they were working on Halo 2. Bungie was having problems and they were behind. They needed an extra year. Well, the Xbox team didn't like that, which is totally understandable as it impacted their plans. So given the importance of Halo to the Xbox team, Robbie asked Ed Fries to come and present to the rest of the leadership why it was that Bungie needed more time. I think it was totally reasonable to have that meeting. It was forcing some accountability. That said, he then did something I thought was unreasonable.
So we go in and we have the meeting, and Robbie basically goes around the room and takes a vote. And it went around the room and everybody voted to keep it on the original schedule. And I walked out of the room and basically I just threatened to quit immediately. Robbie gave in, calmed me down, and he agreed, and he gave us the extra year for Halo 2.
Of course, given none of these people in the room had ever shipped a game, they of course voted that it should ship on time, as if that was going to make any difference at all. Remember, I interviewed with Bungie during Halo 2. There was zero chance they were going to make the date. It wasn't going to happen. And here's the thing, I liked Robbie. He was like Peter Moore. He was a great product marketing focused guy back when it was old school marketing and they talked to customers, wanted to know what they wanted. But he also knew to listen to engineers. So it was surprising that Robbie had done this. And I had a lot of respect for Ed F for standing up against that because it was ludicrous and it took a lot of courage for him to do that. So here you have Robbie. He's a good leader. And then he does something really dumb. Why? It's because he listened to the wrong people, right? He listened to the wrong people. And ultimately, even though he made the right decision for Halo 2, it cost him Ed Fries. Ed Fries left the company, and he was the person who brought him Halo in the first place. I worked with Phil Spencer, and I thought he was a good leader too. He listened to his team.
I think Phil Spencer was a good leader. I genuinely feel like he was a good leader. I do not feel like he is a good leader anymore. I don't know exactly when that happened, that transition occurred, but he grew out of his position. This is not his world anymore. It's passed him by.
and I agreed with his direction most of the time. And if I didn't agree, we could discuss it without me feeling like I would lose my job. But that was a different team. And judging from some of the mistakes around Halo and Perfect Dark, I'm starting to think that he's not getting good data, and that's part of the problem. Without talking to the team, it's difficult to know.
I mean, the Xbox 360 Schizo Suites, I think if I were to have a debate with someone and they said the Xbox 360 was the greatest console of all time, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with them. The Xbox 360 was definitely the peak of Xbox. It was amazing.
If it's mostly competent people that aren't being heard, or corrupt and incompetent employees extracting value for themselves and driving the Xbox,
I mean, obviously outside of the red ring of death, but
and the games off a cliff.
Cheers.
Normally, with a large enough team, you're going to have all of these people. And so the only question is whether or not the good guys are winning. Are the game makers, are the builders, are they winning? Do they have a seat at the table? Are they being heard? Or have they lost their spiritual self? And if they're not being heard, are there enough left of them at the company in Xbox to argue for change? I hope so. But given that the stock market and the investors are still very happy with Microsoft, I think it's going to be a while before we hear the end of this story.
We're gonna get to, it's amazing what you can afford once you get out of the hardware business. It really is.
Another banger video by Laura Fryer. Absolutely crushing it. I don't necessarily agree with every single thing she always says, but she does provide really good insight for behind the scenes in the game industry. And I feel like Microsoft itself has lost its way. And I almost could argue that based off of their actions, they don't necessarily care to find their way when it comes to gaming anymore, which is wild. It's almost like this is the first step of them walking away from gaming. It genuinely feels like that. Well, let's say the second step, because the first step was when they were like, oh, our games are going to be on everything. And it's like, okay, so you don't even care about a console anymore. That's why I never bought the Xbox One S or X, because I'm like, let's play it on my computer. Why would I buy a console if the games can play on my computer? That makes no sense to me. And then you get to thinking like, oh, Microsoft doesn't care about the console. The console is a waste of time for them. They want you to buy a computer with Windows on it because that's where they make their money. It's crazy. And sad, because I think that was one of the first steps to kind of getting away from what made gaming great with the console generations. But I do feel like maybe they saw the writing on the wall before gamers even did, where there is a definite end result to gaming of where ultimately everyone is going to end up, and that is PC gaming. And they saw that before anyone else. And it is happening. It is happening. I mean, I can only speak from my own personal experiences. Yes, I did buy a Switch 2, but I wouldn't have cared to buy a Switch 2 if I didn't have a YouTube channel. Like, I genuinely would not have. I would have waited on it. I would just be playing PC games right now. And this is coming from someone who owns, like, it feels like 75 to 80% of consoles that have ever come out. I'm sure it's not that high because I'm talking about like all the major brand consoles. I literally have a Virtual Boy. Okay. Like I have a lot of consoles and now I do the vast majority of my gaming on my PC. So I feel like that's the direction the game industry has been going, for better or for worse. But it is a curious topic for sure. And I genuinely appreciate listening to Laura Fryer's thoughts on it and the danger of success. But yeah, I'll leave that one there.